Welcome back to Inspired Inc., the CWS podcast, a show where we promote indie comic creators and become inspired by what they create and their journey of creating it. I'm your host, Brandon Bloxdorf, and today on the show we have Alex, Corey, and Mo, the creators of the New Luminaries, amongst other titles, and we talk about how their creative force works and keeps one another in check and accountable, finding ways to grow your audience and sell books if you're not able to con and table, and the value and rewards of friendships and why that leads to amazing creations. All of that and so much more on today's Inspired Inc. I never, interviewing a group of people is like always kind of it's never an option for some reason when creatives come on the team. Like I always choose like one or two creators, like, hey, come on. But I love how like immediately like they're like, hey, can we bring everybody on? And I was like, yes, this will be like a fun party. And so like for one, like it seems like you guys are a very close knit team. Are you guys like in the same region, the same area? How did you all like meet and just like come across and really just start putting that, the pieces together of like putting a band together, like you have the artists, you have the writers, you have the editor. Like, how did all this happen, like for you guys?
It's funny that go ahead, Mo.
I was gonna say, we all go back, way back to middle school. Me and Alex first met in the sixth grade, and then back in Jersey, and then Corey moved to our school district in junior high school. So then and it's funny because me and Alex actually befriended Corey independent of each other, and then Corey kind of like brought the trio together as it is now. And as Corey said, from then on, we've been a creative force together. Before we were writing comic books, we were making music together, and then that transitioned to writing stories. Corey had a bunch of stories that he had before becoming friends with me and Alex that we worked on him with, and just project after project until we eventually settled on the New Luminary script that Alex started working on. But that's the too long didn't read version of, I guess, of the R3 histories.
That's like, what music did you guys play? I grew up a musician myself. Everyone probably on the show who listens, I always talk about me playing music and they're sick of it. But yeah, I played bass like growing up and whatnot, and I was finding like, really? I was sick. No, yeah. Conning and being a comic book artist or creator, it's like going on tour without the band sometimes, and it just makes like the synchronicity kind of work out a little bit better for some reason than when you're in a band. But yeah, what'd you guys play? What'd you do? I'm really interested.
So we were in a hip hop group together. Actually, the whole thing really started, which is funny that you asked that. Now I'm realizing it. Corey and Mo used to freestyle, and sometimes they would battle each other. The kids in the school loved it. And I could not do that. I could only ever write my raps. I could not come up with them off the dome. And these guys were like way better than I would ever do. So instead of me being like, I'm going to also try and embarrass myself in front of everybody, I just learned how to beatbox. And that was once like I would beatbox and they'd be freestyling, and we were like, why don't we just like do this? So we found beats online that we could download for free from like SoundCloud, and we sat in my my convertible with my laptop and just made songs, just recorded it directly into the mic. No care for how it sounded, how
quality.
No, we didn't have any idea what we were doing. I was using GarageBand, and like, what did we make? Like 100 songs?
Yeah.
Just
over the course of like 3 or 4 years.
Never
probably
stopped. Sometimes we would go into Corey's attic and we would make 6 songs in a row just for fun. We one day we sat down and we were like, man, we should really make an album. That's a good idea. And then we turned around and realized we had already done that.
And got to choose songs. Like, oh no, that's not an album cut. No, this one's good.
Yeah, and then we released like an EP after that. That was like the stuff that didn't make it to the album, and we did this for years and years. And that was, it was how we told our stories, because we didn't have an artist at that time, so we couldn't make comics and that kind of stuff. But we were all still coming up with these ideas. Corey was notorious for that. He would literally make an entire song about one of the stories that we wrote in universe from the perspective of a character, and like, nobody listened to them.
Yeah.
We showed them to our friends and stuff, but it wasn't like nobody was buying this. We did a couple like concerts here and there just to have fun with our friends. 7 people would show up to a bar, but all of it was just in the service of making something because we had to. It was what we did when we hung out. And it's like sometimes we played Risk, sure. Sometimes we played video games, sure. But every time, no matter what, we were also talking about, hey, wouldn't it be fun if this? And hey, wouldn't it be cool if this? And just like constantly riffing off of each other, this world started slowly building. And, we didn't even end up using any of that stuff, like story wise, in the New Luminaries, but it informed everything that we ended up doing.
You kind of set the foundations. You kind of get that. It's that practice writing you get out of you. Those bad scripts and whatnot. I'm just out of curiosity, like, who are you guys listening to? Who were your influences during this time? So that influence, like the story building on top of this progressive type of hip hop type of vibe you had going on.
This is a Riggs question.
Well, you nailed it with progressive hip hop. So A$AP Rock was a big one for us at the time. MF Doom, and Cat Empire. The band Cat Empire was because they tell stories in their lyrics, and we would listen to their albums and be like, "Oh, what if this?" So Cat Empire, A$AP Rock, MF Doom. I would say would be
yeah.
Would be the big.
Our first album that me and Alex made together was entirely off MF Doom instrumentals. This whole thing is rapping a persona of a rap Dr. Doom. So a lot of comic book influences in his stuff. And
yeah, I mean, MF Doom was one of the first.
R.I.P. Obviously,
you're when you're a little white kid in the suburbs and you hear MF Doom,
dude,
you're like, holy shit! I can talk about comic books and people might take me seriously in hip hop, and like it's cool, we were friends for so long that everything that one of us learned immediately influenced each other. When I showed MF Doom to Corey because my older brother showed it to me, and Mo had already known about it, and then I showed them A$AP Rock, and then I showed them the Cat Empire, and all of this just kind of influenced what we were doing. And like, music has always been the kind of driving force behind our creativity because we listened to so much music together, and we always shared music with each other, and we always like influenced each other with our music, and that always made us want to tell our own stories.
That's sick. I mean, because The Impossible Kid is like one of the coolest A$AP Rock, like just it's one of those albums that like once I heard that I was like, man, this is a cool, like, because I'm a big Coheed and Cambria fan, and so like so like that just like made sense to me at that point. But yeah, like Coheed and stuff like that, that's where I get like fusing music and like storytelling, and I was like, oh, I get this. This is what I want to do. Like, but that's so cool. I love hearing that. I love hearing just like musicians or how music inspires a lot of comic book creators. And it's crazy how many of us there are where it's like, I still play my bass every so while, and I'll do like a live stream where I jam to a song in like my lunch break or something, and I'm trying to pick it up more. But it's like always trying to find a way to hold on to that musical influence and like help it translate your art now, because you, just like what you were saying, when you would do that and you're making these songs in your attic and like, and I try not to cuss the show, but like during that mindset when you're first creating, you just don't give a fuck. Like you just put out anything and you're like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Look what I just made. And you're just pumping out these things. And as you get older, you're more like self-conscious about it a little bit. And you're just like, man, I'm going to second guess this. Like I'll freeze when I start writing, or like when I sit down and be like, all right, start this new issue, and here I go. And it takes me like a week to start because I'm just like all the mental barriers. But I'm like, I used to just like pick up a guitar and just like write a song in 4 seconds. Like that was sick. Done. Like, why is this hard? But I admire that a whole lot. I love how you guys help keep that chemistry alive. And do you guys have those hesitations now, or do you feel like because you've been creating so long together and you've experienced all your tendencies and like, I'm sure you guys have had different stages of friendships, of creative friendships and barriers. Have you guys feel like you've worked through so many of those, it's easy just to roll through new stories and whatnot?
Alex and Corey definitely helped me push through some barriers after college, and when we had a bit of a lull creatively, I definitely fell into kind of a lazy, comfortable kind of steam. I was just like kind of existing, and then during lockdown when they really went through and revised the script for what would end up being issues 1 and 2 of New Luminaries, really like re-sparked a fire in me to get back into doing something creatively and not just being like a passive observer.
And tell me about that, like kind of just existing at that point. And does that mean like you were just like you're just? I feel like I don't know, it's kind of weird, and I don't mean to like downplay anybody, but like just going through your life, like video games and movies, and like just consuming stuff in that
Yeah,
sense.
I transitioned more into being a fan than a creator. I was just like enjoying the things that I enjoyed. I had stopped, making music and rapping as much because I focus more on finishing up my school and getting my degree. So like I kind of made a crossover. I was like, I dedicate all into music or all into all that, or I play the safe route and get my degree. And I went and got my degree and got a job. So I was just like going through the motions. And then especially with lockdown, just the mental stress of everything that was going on at the time then, just like I wasn't really in a creative mind space. And then, luckily Alex and Corey hit me up and was like, yo, we're doing the new Luminaries. I was like, okay, I'll check out the script when I get a chance. And I got a call a couple of weeks later, like, hey, we found this artist we really like. You really got to check out his stuff. I'm like, okay, I'll get back into this. But, eventually, drag myself through it. And it's been great being back with them and just like getting the juices flowing. I still haven't like on my own been super creative yet. It still mostly comes out when we meet and talk and gather, but it's been like a relearning how to ride a bike kind of situation. It's been real nice getting back into it.
It's easy to fall into that. I mean, I feel like I feel guilty when I play video games. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where I sit down and I'm like, I really want to just enjoy this. Like I really just like wish this I could just do this. And like, but then the guilt creeps up and I'm like, I gotta draw or something, or at least stare at something until I draw. And sometimes I just waste my time and I don't play video games or draw. I'm just like in that middle, spot where you're just kind of stuck,
scrolling, just scroll out, dude.
It's the worst.
It's funny because like for almost 10 years, we were chilling. Like we were going through life. Like where everyone moved and we got married and we were moving in with people and we were getting into relationships and I had kids, and it was like we would still, me and Corey and Mo would still chat and like send each other music and blah, blah, blah. And Corey was still writing songs and he'd send them to me. And I was still like, playing around with ideas. But it wasn't really until like they said a couple years before the pandemic that I was like, you know what? Like I need the juices flowing again. I need to work on something creatively. And that we kind of got this idea to just play with it. And initially, this was supposed to be like a pilot for a TV show or a movie. Like we were just writing a script because we needed to be creative partners again. We needed to like break through that barrier. And it's funny because Riggs and I had off and on periods in our creative relationship because we took it so seriously for most of it. And we spent a lot of time not saying the things that we needed to say to each other, which led
Yep.
to either resentment or misunderstandings. And once one day we sat down in a conversation and we were like, from now on, we're going to bring it up when it bothers us and we're going to figure it out right then. And dude, it was like the dam broke open. We started making comics. We started working with new people. We started printing stuff. Like it was like an immediate change because both of us just wanted it to come out right. We wanted to know that it was going to be good. And neither of us had the trust in each other that we really needed. Both of us always trusted Mo to be there and back us up and do exactly what we needed him to do, come in at the right time and say, but that idea doesn't work because of this, this, and this. But me and Riggs were always like, he's a very meticulous, big thinker, and I am a fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy. So like we had to figure out how to make that work for both of us. And once it did, everything got better. Stories started coming out like we didn't even have to try. Like we were just Max Axel was something that just happened. It was just like Josh had drawn a couple fun vehicles and Riggs was like, well, let's go. And we were supposed to just work on Luminaries 3 instead, or 2, whatever, 2. And they were like, hey, we have this idea. It's like a race and it's like kind of fun. And I was like, yeah, no, that's fun. Let's do it. And Max Axel, tell him the story of the name.
Oh, well, yes. I just want to add to what you were saying before about like right before the idea for New Luminaries came up, I was in a rut writing. I didn't like anything I wrote. I would write and would be like, this is not good. And then Alex came up, like, sat down with the idea, like, let's do this. And working with him again really helped a lot of what I was struggling with in my own writing. I was like, I need some more of that fly by the seat of my pants. I need some more of that chaotic energy. I am thinking too much about this stuff, and it shows. So that is what, like, the dam breaking open felt like. And Max Axel was so indicative of that, of just, oh, we could write 16 pages, fun, jokes, fast, like that. And initially it was JR just being like, man, I just want to do a one-shot comic. And I felt like we were still at the stage where it was like, let's sharpen our teeth. Let's do that. Like, we do have this script, but, like, again, we're editing a script we wrote a year or two ago. So let's write something right now. And backstory that Alex wanted me to talk about is, when I was in elementary school, I had a speech impediment. I flipped R's and W's. And
interesting. Nice, yeah.
My name is Corey Riggs, which is quite possibly a top 3 worst name to have with that speech impediment. So to cope with that, I came up with Max Axel as my new name.
That's cool.
Easy to say. My parents call me Max. My friends call me Max. And it's taken from Mighty Max, the cartoon, and Axel Foley from Beverly Hills Cop. Just
That's amazing.
Two coolest things I could think of at the time, Max Axel. Eventually I worked through it and became Corey again. But we were coming up with the idea of a race, and Alex and I, at the same time, miles apart, the next morning, like, came up with the same idea, and the next morning we both were like, is this a Max Axel comic? So just added the moniker in there because it's fun, fun little Easter egg, and just, again, indicative of, like, how long we've been doing this, how long we've been connected to each other. But yeah, so that was really fun to just write really quick, punch it up really fast, draw it, and, like, it was so spontaneous and so a result of how that trust Alex was talking about, how far that's gone.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, dude, that reminds, once you find those type of, like, people that you could work with, and like, this is like the person I need to create with, like, you found your alignment, the people that your yin yang, in a sense, that fills in all the gaps of what you are and aren't, it keeps you under control. I mean, that's me and my Alex Batts, like, that dude, like, he keeps me under control, he keeps me focused. We have huge ideas and big things, and we always counter each other. And then, like, Max Flowers is, like, our designer, and he's the one that pops in, is like, guys, that's not going to work, we should actually be doing this. And he's just, like, the one that he sees everything, like, almost last sometimes, but he's the one that's just like, once we get green light from Max, we know it's perfect, because Alex and I will just be building this stuff over. That's why Apollo has turned into what it is. It's like, it was a year and a half. I mean, Apollo's been around since 2018, but it wasn't until I met, Alex, where it really just took off. It was that, like, the fire that was missing under everything, and everything just blew up. And it was just like, oh, now we have, like, a bajillion projects and all these things.
Exactly.
And we counter each other. He edits my stuff, I edit his scripts, like, and we grow from each other. And you go through those argument phases where you're just like, I remember Alex and I fought all day over a single word in a script. It was ridiculous. You know what I mean? And we're like, well, in this context, we mean like this. And it was like the goofiest thing in the world, but it was because it's like, you're all filled with so much passion, and you want it to be as great as you possibly can be. And that's all you're doing. You're bringing that out in each other and having those discussions. And it's like, I bet you guys can't even imagine a day without talking to each other, or a week without talking to each other and working on this stuff, and I think that's such a great part of that, that friendship and that partnership, that collaboration. Like, it would just trip me out when I miss a weekend after, like, not talking to Alex. I'm just like, dude, has it been like a month? Like, what have we done? Like, I have so much to tell you. Like, but it's kind of a beautiful, like, just a friendship story. That's really what it is. It's like, you guys are just friends, like, making the most out of life, because life can suck sometimes. And it sounds like this is your big counterbalance to everything that, kind of just, like, goes on and whatnot.
And like to me, this has literally always been about friendship. I mean, like we're the three, people who kind of started this thing, but we've since had 4, 5 additional people join us on this adventure,
Mm-hmm.
and every single one of them is a friend first.
Friend.
They're all people who we either were friends with previously and decided to join us on this, or people who we met like JR and Sam, who we became friends with working through them. We all have a group chat together, and it is the most active and my favorite group chat that I have, because it's like all of the people that I love doing this cool stuff together. Sam and Josh are working on stuff different, with each other. Corey has a book he's working on with his cousin on, and like whenever I get updates for that, or when I share updates for Bubble Pop and stuff that we're working on that the others don't know about, and then it's just like I can pop in here and be like, look at this drawing I got from this guy, and everyone's just like, this is the best. This is the best. When I share, all the little tchotchkes that I get for the Kickstarters,
Mm-hmm.
this arrived, yay! Like we get to celebrate together and celebrate each other's successes, and all of that success is all of ours to share with each other, and it's just like,
and it's so energizing. Like it keeps everything, like it keeps
flowing.
The excitement about doing it going.
Mm-hmm. Because it's so hard to uphold on your own. Oh, my bad, Arnie. It's just real difficult to uphold on your own. That's it. I mean, it's having each other. That's the benefit.
Yep.
Yeah, and we definitely wouldn't have gotten, as far as we got without the friendship that we built with Josh. Because like, it could have been a very transactional. Here's a script, here's the art, here's our edits, like back and forth. And from what we've seen in the industry, that happens fairly often. But like, the camaraderie that we built with him leaves us such a creative like energy between us that he's practically a writer on the scripts too, because we'll be going through concepts and his input is so much more deeper than just surface level art design. Like it influences backstory, it influences current plot. We change the script because of it, like for future issues. Like,
and it's that
he
trust.
really does feel like it's part of the team, and it's that trust that comes with that friendship because we all like the same things, we all get along. Like we get on a call for our weekly meetings, and the first 45 minutes is sometimes just us BSing and catching up before we even start talking about anything business wise. And like that's important because that builds, like Corey said, level of trust, a level of like shared mindedness that like when we do get down to business, it just everything's just so smooth.
Yeah. And we have like an overarching rule that we try to stick to when we're coming up with creative things, when we run into a question, when we find ourselves in a rut, multiple decisions. And it boils down to, if it's fun, it's good. So we ask the question, which is the most fun option? And that's the option we go with because that's the one that's most exciting. It's the one that's going to lead to more story, and it's also the most fun, and like that will be creatively energizing, whereas a better choice that might be more realistic or more in line with whatever, like it's not as fun and it won't keep the ball rolling. And we just need to keep the ball rolling, because when we stop and we find ourselves in these little minutia arguments, it just derails everything. And we all come from an improv background, so like we all come from the idea of yes and, like we riff off of each other and we build from that platform and we take it as far as we can go. And sometimes that's Max Axel and the Wild Circuit.
Max Axel is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So where did the like improv? Okay, so would you even peeling even further back behind the music and whatnot? Like, where improv background? Tell me more about that and how that came to play.
That was pretty much parallel, I want to say, because with the music, because like I said, me and Alex met in sixth grade, and we actually met doing theater together. And then by the time I got to junior high school, we had all started doing improv classes because our high school had a lot of different theater options. And it's a creative outlet, it's a comedic outlet. Like Alex said, it's all about yes and. So you just get thrown into a prompt, you get dragged on stage, you just got to roll with it. And me and Corey like freestyling, we like thinking on our feet. So the two naturally work together. Honestly, I think improv is what led me personally to freestyling because like I always liked hip hop, and like I remember I was watching a bad freestyle one day on TV. I'm like, I like improv. I like rapping. I could probably do this myself. And like, so that's where that kind of led to that. But Alex brings up a good point. It definitely that improv energy is all in our writing process. And
Alex put together an improv show at our high school and assembled like the improv Avengers of his goofy friends. I remember Alex came up to me in the hallway and was like, "Do you do improv?" I was like, I haven't. And he was like, you're doing it now. And like walked off. And I was in an improv show. We did that 3 years in a row.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we raised so much money. It was so what happened was in eighth or ninth grade, I think it might have been ninth grade, there was a teacher, we had a theater teacher, and she did an improv show. And me and Mo were part of the first improv show because she was our theater teacher and we liked her and she asked us to do it. And we had a goddamn blast. It was so much fun. And I was like, we're going to high school next year. She's not going to be there. I'm starting an improv club. So I went to the teachers. I was like, what do I need to do to start a club? And they were like, just get a teacher to sign off on it, get the principal to sign it, and do your thing. So I was like, let's go. So I made an improv club. We set up a show. We raised money. We had sold tickets. It was so cool. And the first 2 years we did it, Mo and Corey were on it every year because, like Riggs said, like, in 10th grade, I got to school and I was like, I'm picking my friends and we're doing this. And then like it was really successful. And the next year when we weren't the youngest kids in the school, there was a lot of younger kids who were like, I want to try out for this. So we had like auditions for it. And it was like a whole thing. And I met some of the coolest people I've ever known because they just were a random kid who walked into the audition. This kid, Mike, is still to this day one of the funniest people I've ever met. He thinks on his feet faster than anybody I've ever met. And he just walked in like, hey, I want to try this. And we were like friends for years after that. And like that really showed me, because all we ever did was that off stage. And I was like, it's fun to do when we're in our room by ourselves, just cracking up. I can't imagine how much more fun it would be if everyone was there to see it. And so when we did it 3 years in a row. We've raised a ton of money. The last year we got in big trouble because we were seniors. We were pushing the envelope. We were saying things we
Jokes are
shouldn't.
raunchy, little
Jokes were a
racial.
little bad. Yeah. It was like, what, 2006? So like, we were high school students.
I want to frame it like Dave, the Chappelle show was out. Like that's what people were watching. So it was very influenced by that.
Yeah. But, that led to years of us doing that together. We were just like, all right, we can do this for anything. And it's how the music came about. It's how, still to this day, like when we would record all those songs, Mo would sit there, Corey would sit there, he'd go through the song in his head, he'd write lines, he'd, spit them, he'd get them locked down. I'd be sitting there with a pen and paper writing everything down. And then you cut to Mo and he'd be like playing fucking Marvel vs. Capcom. And then it would cut back to later and we'd be like, Mo, it's your turn. And he'd just walk up and freestyle 16 bars with no problem. And that was his take. He didn't have to do it again. He just nailed it the first time. I had to do it 18 different times because I had like things that I need to just, and that the fact that all three of us kind of work in a different style, we really need each other to have anything that we do be the best that it can be.
Dude, that's so great because there's a lot to unpack there too. I mean, as a creator and as a writer, like I always felt like improv was like one of the best ways just to like counter, issues or problems that you may, in scripts, getting stuck on something, it really gets rid of that writer's block. So like it kind of clears them. And I grew up with, Chappelle Show and Whose Line Is It Anyway? And like, Saturday Night Live, Mad TV was like a top one when I was a kid too. And nobody, dude, you can't find Mad TV anymore. It's so sad. Like that was like one of the top tier like ones. But stuff like that, like it helps you like really create characters out of nowhere too. And I kind of see that vibe, especially with how many characters you guys have created. It helps open that envelope a bit. And I feel like creators should really kind of like look into that part of themselves a little bit more, like like at least understand improv and stand up to an extent, especially if you're trying to do humor comics and stuff, because it's gonna like really transform your mindset and your understanding of things. Mel Brooks, another great one, like where you're trying to make like funny jokes that are just like out of this world, Monty Python and stuff like that. Like those are all things that people, I don't know, I feel like it's harder for people to go back to for some reason, like upcoming, I guess younger generations and whatnot. But like that was like the gold you could really sink into, where it's, you can't do Mel Brooks today because you would, be just shut down so fast.
And Monty Python, it's funny that you mentioned that because like my dad was a huge Monty Python guy and was like, you need to watch this, you need to watch this, you need to watch this, and showed me all of it.
Same,
and I didn't even realize, but like a lot of our stuff is very in vain. Like the jokes are dry and wet at the same time, if that makes sense. And like it's just like we love putting levels of jokes. We love surface level silly jokes with really deep like funny meaning, and like a lot of our books have like kind of off color, not off color, but like offhanded jokes that seem like just a one-off character saying something, but if you dig into it, you're like, this is actually a reference to something. And like, what?
And your pacing actually in the New Luminaries, like you could tell there's some like comedic strategic placement of like, panels and everything. And that's one of the biggest things when you're doing any sort of humorous thing or just like improvisational thing, is just like, how are you going to deliver it? And your delivery has to be just well timed and executed, and just practicing that. You got to fail a few times, and that's what improv's about. You're gonna have a handful of great moments, but you're gonna have a few fumbles. I don't know about Mo. It sounds like Mo just always kills it, to be honest. But like,
No, Alex is gassing up. A couple of those were 2 and 3 takes. They weren't always 1 takes, but I appreciate it though.
Yeah, no, that's also JR, and the trust we were talking about with him before is giving him the reins and being like, hey, let us know, because we're new to this comic making thing too. So he's been a huge force in teaching us pacing. He's like, guys, I think we need another panel here just so this hits. What if we spread this line between these 2 panels? Or this kind of needs a beat to really be funny. And yeah, so again, what Mo was saying is a lot of art can be transactional, or the writer feels like, no, I wrote it this way, I want it this way. And we're like, if you see something that makes this better, let's do it. Yeah. And so JR has been really clutch a lot of times with that.
We know that running a crowdfunding campaign is tough, and that's why Comix Wellspring wants to help you out. We offer an exclusive crowdfunding partnership program when you print with us and you mention us in your campaign. When you use our program, you'll get a discount on printing and a social media shout out to help promote your project. For full details, check out the link in the description. And now, back to the conversation with Alex, Corey, and Mo of the New Luminaries. So why comics and not film or something? I feel like you guys are right along that alley where you could have chosen anything, but you guys chose comics out of it all.
So we had, always read comics. It started seriously because, me and Mo used to play Marvel versus Capcom with each other, and, Marvel superheroes were the stuff that we liked. We played video games with Marvel characters. That was the deal. Mo
because the
loved
video games back then were dope, like the Punisher
I mean,
game
come
back in
on.
the day. Like, yeah, they were sick.
I'm a Mega Man first guy. He's my dude, and like Capcom was just nailing it. And like, just the idea that all of our books are very character focused comes from Marvel and their characters, comes from Capcom and their characters.
That makes sense too. Your 10 Mississippi count with the dude carrying stuff and like it's how it's going down, and yeah, that's real close.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we write comics, we try to inject all of that history that we know from Marvel and Capcom. And Mo's a big X-Men fan. I'm a big Avengers fan. When I just graduated high school, I was a lifeguard at like a local pool, and there was nobody there ever for the whole summer. I would see like 2 people on a Saturday go swimming at this like community pool. So I had nothing to do, and there was a local comic shop that we had been going to forever for Pokemon cards and Magic and comics and stuff. And I walked in one day, and they had a bunch of bins on the bottom that were 25 cents each comics, 5 for $1. So I gave the man $20, and I walked out with 100 comics. And I got like 25 Iron Mans, 25 Captain Americas, and 50 Moon Knights. I grabbed every Moon Knight this dude had because he was my like favorite back then. And after that, I was like, oh, I got to start reading comics again. This was like right before Civil War came out. So
nice.
once Civil War came out, Corey was living with a bunch of dudes in New Brunswick, and they were all reading comics. Some of them worked at a comic shop for a while, so they were bringing home new
technically
issues.
me too.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, Mo was reading X-Men, and all of us just started sharing the comics that we were buying because we were all buying different books and they were all running kind of simultaneously, and we were all reading Marvel stuff. So I'd go over there with my stack of books every week, and then everyone at the table would have their stack, and we'd all just sit around and read them. And I mean, it's comic books. It's the best. I went to school for film. I had an argument with my professor like sophomore, junior year, right before Iron Man came out. And I was like, listen, I think if they just took these books and turned them into movies, they'd make $1 million. They don't even have to write anything. They're already here. Like all these characters have years and years of stuff. They'd have movies forever. That guy thought I was crazy. And I was so right, like almost immediately the next year, right? So, I mean, you know, once it was like, I went to school for film. I got out of school. The day I graduated, I was like, I'm never going to work in this industry. I don't have the drive. I don't have the passion. I don't have the technical know-how. I'm not going to be running coffee for 3 years to work up, to twiddle the knob, to work up, to be a director when I'm 50. I want to tell stories right now. So we started making short films with just cameras and whatever we could. And, you know, we made one for my wedding. We made a couple for fun. And it's too many talents for a few people to do.
Mm-hmm.
And simultaneously, we had this business plan competition at my school, my final year of school. And I was like, what if we tried to enter it and do a comic company? We could get like, it's $5,000 is the prize. We could take that money, make a book. And we tried, we put this business plan. There was a lot. It was like the most stressful thing we've ever done. And we came in second, and we got like $2,500 to split. And like, you know, none of us were in the position to then make a comic book because it was 2010 and Diamond was the only distributor. You guys didn't exist. There was no way to print. Like, who are we going to go with? Alpha Graphics or Minuteman Press? That's not how that
Printing from our printer in our parents' house. Like,
where were we going to sell them? At a comic? Like, none of that made sense in 2010 for indie books. And our business plan showed that. We put together the most lean business plan you could possibly do. And we were like, with $5,000, we might be able to make one book and do it maybe. Fast forward to now, and it's like, there are so many things set up for us to succeed, including you guys, including the internet, including TikTok Shop, and a website that doesn't cost $1,000 a month to run. Like, everything got so much cheaper, more accessible. Diamond is not the only guy in the game now. I can ship them from my house to people who buy them on the internet. And like, we were like, let's just do it. I met Josh. What the linchpin was, we were writing Luminaries. We were coming out. We were just having fun. And I was in a comic book fan group on Facebook. And Josh posted his pictures of his Power Rangers. It was a series of all 6 of them with, like, you know, the guy in the front and the Zord in the back. And I was like, he can draw anything we ask him if he can draw those 2 things. Because he can draw the robots we need him to, and he can draw the people we need him to. So I just messaged him. I was like, dude, how much would it cost for like some concept art? And he gave me a number, and I paid him for it. And he drew it, and it was like the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like, our ideas are real now. I showed it to Riggs, and he was like, all right, let's go. So Josh asked us, he's like, hey, this is fun. Do you guys have a script for this? And we were like, boy, howdy do we. We have like 7 actually.
Yes.
And we gave him the first one, and he was like, this is great. It's going to be like 70 pages. So maybe we could break this up a little bit. And we were like, let's do it. We broke
Was
it
it because like the film background and the positioning and like, yep. Every filmmaker goes through that when they go to. I've worked with filmmakers that are making comics, and then I studied film, and I realized when I was doing film to comics, I was like, oh, this is different. This is very different.
You got to cut a lot of
it
stuff
actually
out.
ballooned because Jan's first estimate was 40 pages, and I went to Alex. I was like, it's way more. And then we got a text. It was like, oh, maybe closer to 60. Actually, I'm looking at it. This might be an 80-page first issue. I'm like, I told you. Yeah, no, we wrote a lot. So we edited and then chopped that in half. And that's how the first 2 issues came together.
That makes sense. That bridging, the way the storyline is between those first 2. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. We actually, it's funny because we didn't have now obviously when we write these, we put in a cliffhanger, and I was like, what are we going to do for the cliffhanger of issue 1 if we have to break it up? But there's no cliffhanger. We didn't. And Riggs was like, we do it when Higeshi shows up and we just end it there. And I was like, that's so bold. I love that so much. I was like, that's so fun, because they'll be like, who is he? What's going on? And that's actually where
it's literally what I thought. And that's when I was like, I always try to at least, read one issue of the creator stuff whenever I get sent multiple ones. And so I was like, I know I was eating, and then I was just like, I asked the last part, and I was like, I still got like 10 minutes. I could jump into this next one. Checking it out. Yeah, no, it worked. It worked. It was a good cliffhanger. I immediately needed to get some questions answered.
Awesome.
That's so exciting. I mean, like, in general, the concept of what everything you guys have been doing, just the levels of creativity you have going on, and like the ambition and the constant ambition too. And I love how like you all keep each other accountable and afloat, and that's the best way to work, honestly, because like solo is rough. You get discouraged real quick. It's very easy to be like, you know what, I'm going to do this later, or I'm going to do it tomorrow, and that's not going to happen. It's like when you say you're going to take out the trash later, like it's going to happen in like 3 days. Like laundry sits out for like 4 days after it's done. We all do that. Like you're not going to get to it if it's on your own. And so like keeping each other doing, I mean, how Alex and I work, dude. Like I was writing a bunch of scripts one week, and I was like, can you check out my new script? You check out my new script. He's like, I need to write 2. And that inspired him, and he finished the script in like a week, and it keeps the flow going. And you realize like it is accomplishable. You just need to take the steps to do it. And the discipline. And it sounds like you guys have that routine to keep that discipline as well. And how do conventions work for you guys? Have you guys conned often? Where have you conned? How have you liked it? Do you have any conventions coming up that you guys are going to be doing? How's that going for you?
We've only done one so far, and it kind of became like okay, we've got to work on audience outreach, getting our name out there, because I mean, breaking even at a con for us right now is just
it's rough.
Yeah, just barely manageable. So we did one, got the taste for it, and that's kind of where focusing on the work, focusing on the online presence, and then getting back out there when it seems feasible again.
Yeah, we had a really good time at the Comic-Con that we went to. It was like a local New Jersey one. Met some other creators who we only knew from the internet, met other creators like who were next to us and stuff who we're friends with now. It was a really fun experience, but it was like we basically need to ask ourselves, like, because cons, they cost money, and every single book that we sell is like either that money goes towards making another book or it goes towards selling more books. And like with the trade-off, like we can sell these online, people will buy them, the money will come in, we don't have to spend extra money in order to do that. And like I'm sad personally about it, because if it was up to me and I had the money, I'd just blow it on as many cons as we can do. But every time we go, it's at minimum the 2 or the 3 of us, and that's 3 extra badges, plus there's always rules where you got to buy an extra chair for the 3rd guy, and like it really just adds up quick. We need a banner, we need this, we need that, and in order to stand out. So what we're doing is we're building a bunch of momentum so that when we go there, we've got books to sell, we've got stuff to offer, we've got everything planned already, and we make a big show the first time that we do it for real, so that we can keep that momentum going. Because like it's hard. It is a hard thing to be at a con tabling and have people walk past you. Whereas like if someone scrolls past my video asking them to buy my comics, I don't see that.
Right.
I watch them walk past me, and that hurts my feelings. So like,
especially when they glance at the table, like if they just walk past it, but they do like the
Yeah.
and then just keep walking like, oh damn, buddy, just.
Dude, that's the hardest part, and I've talked about it a whole lot. I've done a few cons. Probably the most I've conned is this year because I had some really good opportunities. But like even then, it's expensive. It's hard, dude. Even just going to SPX for the day, like it's an hour and a half driving. You got to think about gas, and then you want to grab breakfast because you're hungry after 2 hours, and then you want to eat before the con. And then the con, you're probably gonna be starving if you're running around like all day, or you're con at the table, and then you go get the $14 like expensive lunch that is not worth it. You could barely eat half of it because you just need
food truck outside.
Yeah, you just need something in you. You know what I mean, to get through and then you eat too expensive of a dinner because you're out with friends and it's like a city you're not in. You know what I mean? Like it adds up, and then that's like day one. There's like 3 days, 4 days of that.
And the hardest thing for me is when I go to a Comic-Con, I want to buy stuff.
Yeah,
I
you want to
buy
support friends.
all those books, and I want to buy the Legos that I see for Moon Knight, and I want to spend we had to we can each spend a little bit of the money that we earn at Comic-Con to buy ourselves something tchotchke, whatever. I ended up getting like a root beer mug that I could refill automatically because I was just like, I just want root beer on tap because I can't do anything else.
That's amazing. No, it's hard. Conning is it's one of those things. You have to choose your avenue, I feel. And I feel like you guys are being really smart about it. Like you have your website, you're setting yourself up for success. You're making a bank for yourself. You're making sure there's steady income and things are covered. Printing costs money, banners cost money, tablecloths cost money. But getting those pieces like piece by piece, you know what I mean? You get a banner one year, you get a tablecloth one year, or like however you want to like try to find your convention ready set. A Wham stand. I mean, once I teamed up with Wham stand, and that's how I display all my stuff at cons and like in the background. I mean, that dude, that's just a great way to present your stuff at your table, but that takes time and effort, and you got to like figure that out before you just. Dude, I've hopped into a con not ready, or when I've tabled at my local comic book shop. That's probably I would recommend that the most for if you're not doing conventions. Talking to your local comic book shop. 4 Color Fantasies here in Winchester. We actually have an interview coming out with one of the managers, Eric, where he talks about like how welcome he loves taking an indie book. So they're a good shot to like reach out to and try to get books in there. 4 Color Fantasies here in Winchester. Great shop that supports creators, but finding those avenues to help like propel you a bit more. And that way you start making that con bank, and then you map out like, okay, we could pull off 2 cons this year. One in May, one in September, put some, a break in between that. But that takes time and planning and execution and that experience to be like, okay, we did this. We know how much it is. It's a lot.
I also think like, funny that you mentioned Wham Stand because I was just chatting with them. We have an order with them. We got one of those spinny stands.
Oh, sick!
With that dude, I can't wait.
I'm getting one too. I'm so excited for it because
me too. We have like the Luminaries logo, the Max Axel logo, and the Astronaut High Schooler logo, and then the Lucky 33 logo on top. Dude, I'm gonna make so many videos with that thing. But yeah, I mean, that was like one of the things that we had to ask ourselves early on is like, how do we make this so that the money that's coming in is not just Kickstarters and selling books? And that's what the TikTok thing is about, and the Instagram and all that.
TikTok shop. Why that route? I haven't heard a creator utilize TikTok shop. However, I know my girlfriend uses TikTok shop like crazy. So how does that?
For me, and I want to get onto the Instagram has a shop business account thing too. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Same, I haven't done it myself.
But what it is once someone buys something on TikTok, let's say you found you've been, and you're constantly, if you're using TikTok, you're constantly advertised everything. Every other video is someone, selling a microphone or a blah, blah, blah. And if you put your credit card information in once, obviously you never have to do it again. And TikTok is like 3 clicks until purchase from for me, it's like, I make a video, I'm talking about my comic, I'm holding my comic, I'm talking about my superhero in my comic, whatever. And then all I have to do is connect a link to that to the video itself, and someone watching it, hey, I want to buy this. 1, 2, 3, and it's done. initially they paid for shipping. They don't anymore. When they did pay for shipping, oh my God, that's $4 extra that I made on every single comic we sold. That's crazy compared to me selling it on Squarespace taking a cut, me having to print out the shipping label, putting the shipping label, paying for it, bringing it to the mail, all of that stuff. TikTok, literally, you just like print out the label, you put it in your mailbox, it gets picked up by USPS and it's gone. And like, just the ease of that, you have to make it as easy as possible for someone to buy your book. And and the step from, hey, look at my thing, to, hey, I bought the thing, has to be as short as possible, because
Yeah.
that's the way that you make the most sales. And like,
You need the impulse shopper, you know what I mean? The one like you're just like, oh,
yeah,
it's done. Like it's yeah,
Right.
it's
well,
too late
you
for me to
want
go
to,
back.
you don't want them to have the time to question their why, and as like, again, I hate selling comic books because it's such a weird feeling, but I know that I buy comic books, I buy indie books, and I love reading them. There are other people out there in the same vein. I learned about the TikTok shop from watching other people sell their books on the TikTok shop and do really well. I don't know if you know Ace Blade, Danny Quick, but he's big on TikTok, and he had a TikTok shop very early on in the process. Dude has sold thousands of books on the TikTok shop. That is so crazy. And all of that money goes into his account that he can then put back into making more books and advertising more books and then making more books. And like, I haven't made a video about our books in a really long time because I'm waiting to get 3 so that I can advertise all 3 together and like ship it out. And we don't order a ton of books all at once. So we try to take like, I try to strategize. But there are people like Avinia Comics. He's always posting links to his books and he is selling books, because every
Wow.
time one of those videos goes out, let's say it only goes to 200 people, that's 200 new people that never saw your stuff. And if I'm sitting at a Comic-Con, the number of people who are going to walk past me is exponentially less than the number
Mm-hmm.
of people if I record a video in my room and post it on TikTok. And, a lot of the followers that we have on my personal TikTok account are not from people who followed me because of my comic books. They're people who followed me because I talk about other things. And then some of them are like, oh, he makes comic books too. Let me check that out because I also like comic books. And it's like we cast a really wide net for people who just might like me as a person. And if you like me as a person, you'll definitely like our comics because I'm in them. So,
Yeah, yeah. That was
yeah.
another cool thing. I mean, I wanted to bring up at the beginning of the conversation, but you're also in your comics, which is a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Like I was
Yeah.
the moment I saw that, I was like, I know who that is. Like,
So
like instantly.
that is like a whole thing. It comes from initially when this was a different story a long time ago. I was supposed to play a character in a pilot TV show that we were filming, and he looked and acted and was based on me. Once we turned this into this new story, we also changed the character a bunch, but we didn't change who he acted and looked like, because that was the most fun part of it, was like I was silly, and like the silliness was the initially in that other story, the silliness of that character was like the palate cleanser for the rest of the characters who were a little intense. And then when we were like, we like this character, we want to do all of it like that. Like, what if the whole story was sillier? Let's just take him with us and build new characters from that. And then everyone can be silly and it'll be fun. And so that's what the new Luminary started as, was like, we like this character because he's me and I can, like, it's easy for me to write that because I'm a bit of a character myself. So when we do it in context, it will fit with the rest of these characters who we can create, from, and, the other characters are obviously inspired by Corey
Mhm.
and Mo to a degree, and Marissa's inspired by my wife and several other women in our lives. And like all of our characters definitely come from people who we know and love, because it's easy to write them because they have personalities that already exist.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, I do a book called Teenage Babylon, and that's really pulling from like my life and just heavily exaggerated because there's so many sci-fi
Yeah,
elements in there.
yeah.
But like, you have to. It's kind of pulling from life and pulling from what you know, and kind of like reinventing yourself in a comic, or like in that sense. Like it's you write more personally that way. You could kind of touch into certain, subject matter or situations or like moments in life that are kind of hard to like think about or face sometimes. But like putting it out there and, writing it and editing it and kind of twisting that narrative a little bit, it kind of like it's very therapeutic. And so you kind of get to move through and focus on stuff that you're like, wow, like I didn't think I could move on with that chapter of my life, but because of this, like, and how I've reformatted it in this aspect, it's, I don't know, it changes you, and that's why I think we're able to pump out so many stories and have so much inspiration, because we just have so much to say at a certain point in our lives. um I think that's why it took me a while to like find comics too as a release, instead of like, I was so music driven, was that I finally felt like I had something to say, and once I did, now I can't shut up, type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
um
absolutely.
that's insane. I mean, your guys' journey, like, it's really like touching. It's really cute. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's really like
Thank you.
it's one of those things where it's like, if me and my best friends like Sam and Eric grew up and like, did all this stuff together, that'd been the coolest thing, to make comics with your best friends and like grow up and like continue doing that and pushing that envelope and that journey. And you guys seem to be finding a lot of success, and that's what I'm really excited to see and hear. And just like creatively, like you keep each other going, and that's the most you could ask for in this day and age, is just to have that, fun, youthful approach to things where, I mean, life outside of like our comic book making realms is, rough, and reality is, weird and whatnot. And the spectrum of everything in the universe right now is a little odd feeling, but being able to go with your friends and like make cool stuff and like share it with the world, and the world's like interested and excited for you, it's like probably the coolest thing in the world. I can't express that
Yeah,
anymore.
when I'm having a bad day and people at work ask, just the stock question, "Hey, how's it going?" They do know I'm going to respond, "Well, I make comics with my friends, so
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
bad could it be? Like, I got that, and I'm holding on to it."
Yeah.
No, honestly,
And it's funny that you said, the thing about like how the world is kind of crazy. And I have a theory, and I'm hoping that it works, because entertainment waxes and wanes. It goes in one direction, it goes in the other. And the last couple of years have been a lot of media self-reflecting on itself, saying, the world is really messed up, let's hold a mirror up and show how messed up that world is. And we just we think that people are not tired of that, but we think that they need something fun. We just
yeah,
think that they need something to make them think that like friendship still exists. People can still be good to each other. The people in positions to help may help. They might actually do it for the right reasons too, not for these, selfish, like under the ground, like every superhero is secretly a mean person. Like, we just wanted to have a story where people could feel good again. And personally, like, all of this is all in service of friendship. Like, the reason why I make the books, the reason why we do it together, the reason why I do it on the internet and TikTok and blah, 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 is because every time I do it, I make another friend. And one of those people is, they're like wonderful people who have like humanity about them and cool ideas, and they're driven and they're interesting and they're unique. And that has always been what working with Riggs and Mo has been about on anything. It's never been about the product and selling it and having people buy it and think I'm a good writer or think I'm smart or I'm funny. It's because we do it together, and more people are like, I want to be part of that. And it's just like, we got our arms open. Please, like, we love you. We want everyone to understand that, like, this can be about fun and friendship. It doesn't have to be about loneliness and struggle and writing by yourself and the artist's pain. It can be about love.
yeah, dude, that's the whole point of Inspired Ink. That's the whole point of Spilled Ink. Like, this is here just to, like, that's why I love like hearing this story. I know I always want to crack. Typically, a second interview is when we really crack into like the comic and whatnot. But like hearing people's story where it drifts so far off from even the comic itself, it's always great because like you realize how human everyone is and how we all kind of think and feel and gone through the same motions. And I feel like I resonate with every one of our creators that I get to talk to. And that's the funnest part is I get to like, I was just at SPX this weekend, and I got to meet dozens of creators that I've only interviewed, and I got to meet them in person. And once I meet you guys like in person, it's the funnest thing in the world because we already kind of know each other. It's super chill, and then we're just like super hyped and like we're celebrating like being at a con or being at an event, and you're celebrating the comics that you guys made and like seeing them in front of like whenever I see people's books I've gotten to interview, I get the digital copy typically, but I love having a physical because it's just like I get to celebrate a little bit of like extra, you know what I mean? It's one of those fun things. Like it's extraordinary. I mean, comics in the comic book community really has become such a an uplifting realm and full of positivity, and it's not competition. It's just like we all want to bolster each other, we all want to see each other succeed, and we all know like it can be lonely, it can be a very solitary thing, but doing stuff like this, I love hearing people say like, oh, I was drawing to the latest episode, or I was drawing along with you guys at Spilled Ink. Like it's what you want. It's community. And I think
absolutely
bringing you guys on the show, that's what the whole point was about. CWS is very much, we want to highlight our creators, we want to highlight our community, and let everyone know that there's more. I hope people go and find you guys and like network with you guys now, and that's the whole point, is like giving more people a bigger branch of the community.
Definitely. And
Definitely
literally,
one of the beautiful things about,
go ahead, Mo.
I was gonna say is one of the beautiful things about comic books in general is like it only takes you a few minutes to read an issue.
Yeah.
There's no zero sum game for other comic book creators. Like someone likes my book, they might like your book. When I did my Kickstarter, I'll shout you out. You can shout me out. We'll do a video on Instagram. Like there's no, we're not fighting for the same dollar or time necessarily. Like everybody has an interest, and people like different genres. Like you don't really like our stuff, you like horror. Oh well, check out this studio that we follow because they put out great horror comics, or vice versa. And it's just like it's very easy to be friendly in the comic book space, which is nice.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
And let me just for a minute gush, because I will say, if it wasn't for Comix Wellspring, we wouldn't be doing this. I'm serious. If it wasn't for you guys, Josh lives in Michigan. He literally drives to pick up his books from you guys. Like he was the one who was like, hey, we can do this because there is actually a company that is designed to print comics. And that was when we were like, oh shit, we can do it. So like, thank you guys and keep at it, because if it wasn't for you and the other groups that do this, there would be no us. We would have no way to do this, and we would still be just dreaming about it. So like, comic book printers are the coolest people in the world to me. You guys do this because we love it, and that's wild.
And honestly, that's why they brought like someone like me on the team. I was just like, well, I make comics and I do all this and I podcast, and they're like, well, we get creators that know what it's like to be in the trenches and do this and make it. And that way, like the message actually means something, like it's now a company like run like for creators by creators. And that's the coolest part about it, is that it's not like some like just corporation just doing, comic book printing. It's like, no, we're comic book. I made all these books, dude. Like it's crazy. Like, and it trips me out. Like it trips me out every day when I walk in the studio and I'm just like, man, I helped make these, and then I have my books in, production right now, like Teenage Babylon and Fake Your Death and like Weed Wizard and Bong Boy and stuff like that. So it's like super exciting to like always just see that powerhouse, that that drive, and like I turn around and be like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. This is all mind blowing how it all comes together, like from creator to like how now we all have a partnership with a printer, and having a partnership with a printer has never happened with creators before. So the fact that we get to talk to you guys and bring you on the show and become friends and actually build a relationship, I don't know another company that does stuff like this.
It's so
that's
cool,
why I'm
dude.
so honored to be here.
Yeah, when you guys invited us, like I was immediately like, boys, we've been called to the big leagues. It's time for our
there was
moment
a
in the
signal
sun.
in the sky. We all like,
I love it.
We
Well,
really
it's been
appreciate having us.
No, thank you. And this has been an awesome hour of just getting to talk and know you guys. I mean, I get to talk to Alex all the time, like, pretty often on social media and whatnot. And it's super exciting. I just feel your energy through the messages. And it was, well deserved to bring you guys on the show. I really love and admire everything you guys do. And the amount of work that you're pumping out too, with like the quality of it. That's what's exciting. You're not just pumping out stuff, you're popping out stuff with such great quality. And I admire that so much. But while we sign off, why don't you guys tell us and tell the whole audience what you guys are up to this next year or so, like what you have to look forward to, where to find all of your stuff, and any other shout outs you want to give real quick.
We'll run through it real quick. So, New Luminaries #3 is coming out next month. Books are in your hands, actually. So, you guys said that I'll have the proof in my hands soon. So, once I get that and approve it, we'll get those books shipped to us and then shipped out to the end users who back the Kickstarter. And then everyone after that, you can buy it on the TikTok shop or on our website. Hopefully, the Instagram shop when I get that set up. Next, we have New Luminaries #4, trying to do that right out the barrel. Then we are going to go into Astronaut High Schooler #3. We have 2 webtoons currently that are running. You can check them out if you look Lucky 33 Comics under webtoons. Is Thieves in the Nest, which is a story written by Corey Riggs down there. And then we've got Bubble Pop and the Wonder Witches, which is written by me. We are also working with a couple other creators over the next year or 2 on several projects. Max Axel and the Galactic Grand Prix, sequel to Max Axel and the Wild Circuit with Moonlayer Studios. We are working on Max Axel the card game with 4Y Games. You can find the Chameleon Car and the Chameleon Twins in Star Racer, which is a video game by Whatnot Games. You can get it on Steam. 2 of our characters are in that game, which is super cool.
So sick.
And then we have the Luminaries 1956 and Galactic Delivery Dudes, which are 2 books we're working on with Ultra Comics. Go follow them on social media as well. And then finally, Thrashore, which is a book by Sam Moore and JR, who is our artist, and The Face by T.S. Luther and R.D. Murphy, who you interviewed just the other day. So that is the docket coming up. We'll see which one comes out first and how fast we can do them, but that's our plan.
That's so exciting. Super exciting. Do you guys want to announce your socials so people can follow you, or just the Lucky 33?
Yeah, definitely follow us on Instagram, Lucky33 Comics. We all have access to that on our phones, so we're all typing in there. And then on TikTok, you can either look up Ezra System or Lucky33 Comics. There's 2 accounts. You can follow both of them or either of them for more Lucky33 goodness.
Awesome, dude. Thank you guys all, like Mo, Alex, Corey. It's been a blast. This is it's just an intriguing conversation, and I love hearing the layers that everything was built upon. It's so cool. It's so sweet. It's such a great like friendship story in general. Probably one of the coolest I've heard on the show so far. So I really appreciate your guys' time and your energy and everything that you're putting out. I can't wait to like see your next book, and can't wait to read the next issue. I'm so hyped to follow up on what you guys are doing. And for our audience, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to check out comicswellspring.com. Hit us up at a con. We have a whole new season of Inspired Ink coming out. Don't forget to check out our spotlight videos with dozens of creators. There's going to be even more of those in Inspired Ink because these take way longer. And don't forget to check out the live drawing every single Thursday night with me and Max Flowers. And yeah, other than that, thanks for hanging. Stay inspired and stay creative.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Inspired Ink featuring Alex, Corey, and Mo of the New Luminaries. And if you're a comic creator yourself and you're ready to bring your vision to life, look no further than Comics Wellspring. We're not just printers, we're your partners in creativity. With our exceptional customer service, you'll never feel lost in the process. And if you need your comics fast, our lightning quick turnaround times have got you covered. And for those big ideas you have, our industry-leading bulk pricing options make large print runs a breeze. Don't let your masterpiece gather dust on your hard drive. Click the link on the screen now, and let's turn your pages into reality.